So I'd like everybody to just take a moment to relax. And immediately what might happen when I say take a moment to relax is the mind might start to think of things like, well, if the weather was only better, or if I could only sit this way or that way, then I could relax more. But isn't that life? That nothing is actually perfect. Nothing is actually ever exactly the way that we want it. And so here we sit, very comfortable place, very lucky people indeed to be learning the Dhamma, but still the mind can figure out ways that, it would be better if this, or it would be better if that. If only I was less sleepy, less uncomfortable. And all that stuff is priceless. Priceless to learn from. Such is the condition of the human mind. Always looking for better, always looking for more. And if we take a little look closer, it's trying to avoid suffering. Terrified, unwilling to see that this human body and this human mind are suffering itself. And that's the Buddha's teaching, not something that is a negative perspective or a negative outlook. Oh, how could he say things are suffering? Let's make it good, let's make it wonderful. No. We can try, but ultimately, what's that trying coming from? We just take a look at the truth and we'll see that it's very difficult to achieve any state of satisfaction for very long. In fact, we can only achieve states of satisfaction for so short that even satisfaction isn't satisfactory. And such is unsatisfactoriness, the truth of unsatisfactoriness, or suffering, however we want to call it. The truth that nothing persists. And this is what we are here to learn. We're not here to learn how we can keep the mind peaceful, how we can organize everything in our lives so that the least amount of suffering possible happens for us. No, we're here to see the truth, that this body and mind are unsatisfactory things, and then with that wisdom, we are at peace with that. That's where peace is. Peace is in the wisdom. We are at peace with the way that things are, namely, not so peaceful. So learn to accept yourself, the suffering self, but learn it. Learn this suffering self, see this suffering self, and we'll become wise. And this is the Buddha's message. And this is what my master, Longpa Pramod, is entrusting me to teach the Western world, to bring this message forth, to bring the teachings on mindfulness forth. So Christine, can you see that you're holding yourself together? There's a squeezing and holding yourself together. You're doing that because you're afraid to suffer. It's trying to not suffer. See that? Trying not to suffer. It's wonderful to see that. It's wonderful to see that. And there's a fear that if you don't hold yourself together, that it could get really bad. It could get really, it's painful, it's hard to sit this way. You're not feeling well today, and there's all these difficulties. But all these difficulties ultimately aren't happening to you. They're just happening to the body, and the mind is reacting. That's all. See that the body is one thing, and the mind is another. You see that? You can see that. Yeah, you can see that right now. You see that? there's this one thing nodding and sitting and sort of uncomfortable and having some difficulties, and then there's another thing that sees it. And there's another thing that talks about it. And the thing that talks about it and the things that see it are the body that's suffering. The body suffers, and then the mind is the one with the problems. But it's not the mind that's in the pain. It's amazing, isn't it? Even when we feel hot or cold, the body's hot, the body's cold, the mind complains, but the mind isn't hot or cold at all. I notice that sometimes when swimming, when I'm feeling the body swimming, that the body is soaking wet, and the mind isn't wet at all. And you can separate the body and mind in that way and see how different the two things are. It's like, yeah, this one's wet, that one's not wet. The confusion is, I'm wet, I'm sick, I'm in trouble. But when we can see the body and mind as two different things, it's the body that's in trouble. The mind is reacting, but the mind isn't the one who is being the victim of these things. It isn't the one doing the sense contact. The mind isn't the one seeing, hearing, or smelling. But it's the one with the commentary. It's the one that makes the problems. The body sick, the body unwell, the body dying aren't problems until the mind thinks about them, turns them into problems. Why you're trying to be too still? พยายามให้มันนิ่งเกินไปไม่ได้ฝึกเพื่อนิ่งนะดีขึ้นฟุ้งซ่านแล้วเห็นฟุ้งซ่านไหมฟุ้งซ่านดีกว่านะฟุ้งซ่านแล้วรู้ว่าฟุ้งซ่านที่จะกลับมาเห็นลมเนี่ยดูลมอยู่เนี่ยที่กลับมาดูลมนะดูแป๊บเดียวเดี๋ยวมันฟุ้งซ่านอีกรู้อีกไม่ได้บังคับให้มันอยู่กับลมนะไม่ได้ต่อต้านฟุ้งซ่าน So right now you're bringing your attention to the breath. It's over-focusing. It's because you feel like you should be less busy-minded. You should be less restless. That's torture. The torture is in thinking you should be different than you are. Just notice the breath for a moment and your mind will be busy and restless again, and then no so. See the breath again just for a moment, and then the mind will go off again, and then no so. Don't try to stay with it. Just come back and let it go. Come back and let it go. Payam leng pai na. เดี๋ยวมันเหนื่อยเดี๋ยวมันฟุ้งเดี๋ยวมันซึมเพราะมันพยายามมากไปมันพยายามมากกว่าความสามารถมันทำได้แค่นี้เพราะมันพยายามใหญ่อย่างนี้มันก็เลยเหนื่อยก็มันต้องพยายามพอดีกับความสามารถของเรา Thank you. We only have so much ability to concentrate, each person. And so if we're not concentrating as well as we'd like to, then we start applying too much pressure. If we start applying too much pressure, then all we're going to do is make ourselves tired. Because we don't have enough concentration that much. If you add force to concentration, it'll just make you tired and dazy and dreamy. It's not actually going to work. So you can't pretend to have more concentration than you have. You can't force into trying to have more concentration than you have. It just has to be normal and natural. However much you have, that's how much you have. It doesn't matter anyway. We're not trying to stay concentrated. We're just looking to see what the mind does. We just have a place that we can come back to so then we can see what the mind does. Your attention moving up to yourself. Now so holding it back in. Now you're back out in it again. Okay. You see the smiling. Okay, see the smiling in your eye. Okay. And you're trying not to think. It goes very fast. Okay. Just moves, does. Don't try to do anything. Just see it. It'll do stuff anyway. Whether you're trying or not, it'll just keep doing stuff. So you don't have to try to do anything at all, and it'll have done something. Yeah. Right? It's going to go to think whether you want it to or not. It's going to come back and pull in or not. It's going to go and think about what the correct Dhamma practice is. It'll do it all on its own. You don't have to add anything. Just see whatever it did. But do so, don't hurry. If you start hurrying to try and see things, just know that your mind's too busy, you're too restless. And then something else will happen. Good. Yeah, just let it ramble. Let the mind ramble. Don't squeeze it. Don't squeeze it to try and make it nod, or to try and see it, or try to wake up from it. Just, in this case, if it starts rambling, just see it as something different than the body. So don't interfere with the rambling mind at all. Just let it go, let it go, let it go. Let it go, not meaning, by let it go, I mean let it ramble. Or you're remembering a state from the past. Your heart is remembering a state. I'll translate in a moment. You're remembering a state from the past that the mind felt still and it felt nice, and you want it back. คือเคยมีสภาวะที่สบายๆนิ่งๆเคยมีครั้งหนึ่งมีอะไรแล้วก็พยายามแล้วก็จำไว้แล้วก็พยายามให้มันเป็นเหมือนเมื่อก่อนไม่ได้รู้ตรงปัจจุบันนะตอนนี้มันแค่ตอนนี้นะมันแค่มันจำสภาวะเก่าแล้วอยากได้จิตมันมีราคานะมันอยากจะดีให้รู้ทันเลยว่ามีราคาอยู่ให้รู้ทันเลยว่ามันสายมันหารู้ทันเลยมันอยากสงบอีกมันอยากดีอีกราคา You just see the craving that it want the mind to be good, want it to be in a nice state. มันมีอะไรถูกนะมันรู้แทนที่ผิดแค่นี้เอง There's nothing you can do that's right. All you can do is see what's wrong. The mind only knows how to do things that are wrong, pretty much. There are very few things it knows how to do that is right, like wake up by itself. Those moments happen to us practitioners when we're practicing correctly, but they're rare. And they're short. Right? 99.9% of what's going to happen is all going to be wrong in the sense of mindfulness, but we can't do it right. All we can do is see what was wrong. Now it's squeezing, now it's pushing, now it's off thinking, now it's holding and over-focusing at the nose, and it's squeezing in, now it's managing, trying to figure out what to do better. Right? All we can do is just keep seeing what's wrong, and then that's right. And so Sally, you got this happiness that came up and now it's starting to subside. I think it's like this happiness. Because your heart likes the Dhamma. Likes listening to the Dhamma. It's good. Listen to the Dhamma often. Okay? Happiness is key. Happiness is key. A lot of people practice so they can be happy. And they're creating stress right away. Okay, I'm going to practice and then I can be happy. Now you have expectations. You have to be happy first. In fact, to practice the Dhamma, you have to be someone who's at least somewhat happy, somewhat content, able to relax somewhat. You don't do it, practice Dhamma, as a totally stressed, depressed person looking to feel comfortable, or you'll get it all wrong. Yeah. If you're a stressed, depressed person looking to just feel comfortable, play a sport, do some volunteering, even see a psychologist, get some stuff straight so you're relatively comfortable within yourself at times first. Then come to practice the Dhamma. The Dhamma isn't for the weak-hearted. Oi, can you see the days เป็นตัวซึมไหมอ้อยตรงตามันซึมอันนี้เพราะว่าพยายามมากไปมันพยายามมากไปมันเป็นอย่างนี้แต่ไม่เป็นไรมันเป็นไปแล้วมันจบแล้วแค่รู้ทันว่าซึมเนี่ยคือใช้ได้อันนี้คือปฏิบัติถูกต้องในขณะจิตนะคือเห็นตัวซึมเนี่ยเห็นตัวสภาวะอันนี้คือถูกต้องที่สุดเลยที่พยายามให้มันสงบให้มันรู้หายใจให้มันไม่ฟุ้งซ่านมากอะไรเงี้ยอันนี้คือเป็นเหตุให้มันซึมใช่ไหมแล้วพอมันซึมก็รู้ทันเลยว่ามันซึมเนี่ยถูกต้องแล้วฝึกตามหลักของพระพุทธเจ้านะแค่เห็นตัวซึมตอนนี้มันมีความสุขขึ้นนะเห็นไหมมันสบายใจเพราะว่าเป็นหลักพระพุทธเจ้าเห็นซึมมาทำถูกเนี่ยเจสมีปิติไหมมันมาที่เจสเลยนิดหน่อยนะ maybe you should open your eyes because you closed eyes can getซึม maybe open your eyes
ใช่
open your eyes
ถ้าเรามันแบบอย่างเงี้ยทุกทีเลย
open your eyes right this is Dhamma this is Dhamma maybe not depends if you're over focusing depends if you're too rigid
เกิดอาการนี้ก็ลืมตา
แต่รู้ทันสภาวะก่อนนะคือถ้าเห็นตัวซึมนะถ้าตัวซึมเนี่ยหายไม่ต้องทำอะไรต่อไม่ต้องรักษาไม่ต้องแก้นะคือจริงๆวิปัสสนาไม่มีคำว่าแก้แต่ว่าถ้ามันซึมนานยาวหลุดไม่ได้อะไรเงี้ยก็รู้ทันว่าอยากหลุดอันนี้ดีที่สุดแต่ถ้ามันซึมตลอดนะไม่พัฒนาเท่าไหร่อย่างเงี้ยก็ลืมตาปฏิบัติลืมตาดูให้มันสดชื่นหน่อยบางคนนะลืมตาเขาจะชอบมองนี่มองนู่นนะฟุ้งซ่านภาวนาไม่ได้บางคนนะหลับตามันจะฝันเห็นภาพนี่ภาพนู้นง่วงปฏิบัติก็ไม่ได้เขาต้องลืมตาแล้วแต่เคส Because some people when they have their eyes closed get sleepy and dreamy and so it's too hard to practice when their eyes are closed but some people when their eyes are open they're looking at this and looking at that and they're outside themselves right so we have to see case by case and also moment to moment but just remembering the principle that we're not trying to fix it so it's bad now I have to fix it the first thing to do is just notice the phenomenon whether it's dazziness or sleepiness and then after that we may even be smarter and notice the wanting it to be different right that's the most genuine organic practice however if the mind is daisy for too long and we can't get out of it for hours or days and it's always like that we're not developing then you may want to change sitting you might have to get up and walk daisy dreamy with the eyes closed you may want to open them take some deep breaths right so we try our best not to fix anything or change anything but if there isn't development for a very long time and we always end up in the same rut right, then we may have to tweak our practice a little bit there's a real finesse to it so there's a like a simulated aloofness right remember that equanimity is something that comes naturally from seeing the liking and not liking right so allow the not liking to totally come up allow the liking to totally come up and the equanimity happens by itself after seeing these things not by deciding to be equanimous does that make sense? Okay. Trying to get Christine out of the squeeze, out of the tightness. So, the mind can go off and go off and go off, and that's fine, but you just keep it inside, you don't let it out of your mouth. But you let it you let it go in your mind. It's the same thing like with anger and stuff, right? Like you can feel really angry, you have to let it get angry, but you just don't let it spill over and hurt other people. So the neat thing that happens is sometimes when you're holding in, but you are noticing phenomena, like you are doing a good job of noticing phenomena here and there, but you're holding in, if somebody startles you out of it, and you get let out of it, you actually become genuinely mindful for a while. Because your mind was in the habit it gets in the habit of being mindful, but it's too tight. And as soon as you just let go and let it be free, it will automatically start to notice things. I gave it a go. I gave the little squeeze a go. You grabbed it right back. You notice that? So boom, no. Get that back. Squeeze it back. So striking the balance between, it's off now. So striking the balance between going off and holding in isn't anything you can do. All you can do is, it's off, it's holding, it's controlling. Now it's out of control, now it's controlling. Right? You just see these two extremes. And then it becomes the middle way. It becomes aware just by itself, by seeing the two extremes. There's just these little tiny moments of the middle way between, and it goes off this way, it goes off that way. But if you're holding it to one of the sides, if you're holding it to the extreme side, holding it in, it'll never pass over that middle way. You see, here's the lost in thought, lost in the defilements. Here's the controlling oneself. It has to go back and forth between these two, and then there's the knowing. There's the middle way in the middle. So it has to move between these two things in order to pass over this middle way just for the odd little split second. So we've all been practicing watching phenomena, mental phenomena, physical phenomena. But we do need a little bit more power and energy to our practice. And that's what samatha is for. So we can do very short samatha just to forget about trying to see this or trying to see that and just notice the body breathing happily just for a few breaths. We can forget about trying to be mindful of phenomena. Just give the mind a rest by watching it breathing. That'll give us the energy to help us practice mindfulness after we leave this Dhamma session and move in to the regular world and allow Dhamma to follow us wherever we go. Dhamma isn't something that is only here during meditation. Dhamma is everything. And so we bring our practice everywhere we go. Everywhere this body and mind are, Dhamma is too. Share the merits of my practice. and all my good doings with all living beings. From the highest realms to the lowest realms, may all sentient beings be happy. May all sentient beings be free from suffering.